Oh no. Is it over already? Last week I asked this. At the end of the week it might look like this. If I'm right, and it does, do you know how to get in on that move? And then the crypto market decided to do this. Is it over? Let's talk about it in this video. Good morning. It is Monday the 4th of August today. If you're new here, every single Monday, basically I do a Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana market review and then a trade plan for the day and for the week ahead. And then in the evening, every single Monday, we do a live stream to talk about the day's price action and then have a little bit more of a detailed plan for the week ahead. Everyone's gone into the weekend a little bit gloomy because of the way the week and the month ended, because we had a load of red candles after a bit of a boring July really, where things just went sideways mostly. And we're going to talk about that in this video, what I expect, and I'm expecting some kind of reversal at some point. I'm still bullish. I don't know if that's lower or if it's going to reverse at this point here, but let's discuss that in a little bit more detail in the charts. Before I do that, let me ask you one quick question about your trading. Are you getting paid for the volume that you're creating for the crypto exchange that you're trading on? No? Tell me more. If you're on a crypto exchange at the moment, you're not getting paid for it, bring your account over to us on What Exchange using my ref link in the description below. I'll get paid for the volume you create on the exchange, but I'll just give you half. I'll give you half straight into your trading account. You can do whatever you want with it. You can withdraw it, you can trade it, and it's not a gimmick. It's not a one-time thing. I'll give you half of that volume commission forever straight into your trading account. Also, they're non-KYC, which I think is a really big beneficial thing for crypto. And they have a big airdrop early next year, which is in the style of hyperliquid, and everyone knows what happened with that. And farming for that airdrop is live now. You can connect your wallet, any major crypto wallet like MetaMask, Phantom Wallet, Rabby, anything like that. And you can start trading immediately and you can start farming for the points immediately for that airdrop. And you'll also start making those commissions immediately on the volume you create straight into your trading account. Get into the description below, hit that ref link. And now let's just jump onto the charts. Starting on the weekly, we can see that we have a bearish engulfing candle of the previous two candles, which doesn't mean too much in isolation to me. We'll explore that on the lower time frames, but I've seen some people say that this is now a bearish sign and potentially a top is coming in, but I don't buy that. If we look at previous examples of retraces on Bitcoin, which is the most recent one here in June, we can see that although this broke all of the previous candles, technically this is an engulfing candle. It ripped up the next week and then just continued higher. Maybe this is something that we can expect to see over the next couple of weeks, but for me this doesn't really mean much in terms of a top. I prefer to have structures engulfed, which we'll talk about on the lower time frames in a moment. But just marking things out for our bearings, we can see that this is the previous high that has been broken by the bullish trend, and now we are having a retrace. And it's kind of done a little bit of an SR flip. It's kind of flipped this high and then bounced perfectly off of it. And it remains to be seen, obviously, now if it's going to drop below it and then flip it, or it's going to use this as support and continue higher. So let's jump down to the daily, get a few more candles and get a bit more of a picture. So here's our map. Here's that previous weekly high that gets broken. And then the buying that took place to break that high comes from down here, and ultimately for me that is where the market structure changes, and that's where we start thinking, hey, maybe a top has been put in. Maybe it's not a bull market top, it's just a retrace. It has moved quite a lot over the year and it could be due for a correction. I don't like using the word correction, but it's something that kind of happens once you see an asset that has moved this much. This is where the next level is for me on this time frame. If it does break this level, I would think it's coming down to 92k. At the moment, there's no reason to expect that it will. However, I'm keeping my eye on it. It is an area of interest, although we have this cluster here, which we'll look at on H4, which makes a bit more sense. So we have the trends that pushed up. And then what I've been talking about for the past few weeks is that there was a range here, and you can see that price was moving sideways and respecting it really cleanly. However, what I had said in previous videos is that where we have a range normally like this, after a trend, you kind of see more bullish signs. You see some higher lows and some higher highs. Even though we got higher highs and higher lows, you can see that this just dropped sideways. It just wasn't really giving much hint about what it wanted to do. However, in hindsight, what we can say is that every time it tried to make a high, here, 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 and here, it just didn't want to continue. But at the same time, every time it made a low at these points, price kept bouncing back up to the high of the range and kept getting knocked back down. So there was no real clear indication of what it wanted to do. My idea had been that every time it made a higher high, you would expect it to continue this trend, and the higher high would be an indication of it continuing. However, obviously, as we've seen now, it has not done that. So on H4, I like this level here, which has kind of been bounced over the weekend. So this is a continuation level, and it's sitting on where the high of this retrace was. So this is a clean level. It's a nice level for a reversal, and it's put in a pretty much clean distribution pattern where it comes sideways like this, bounces off of a level, and then normally what you'd see is one of two things. First being that it's just going to continue lower, like so, to a deep level on a higher time frame, or this is now a fake out of that range, and then we expect to see higher like that. So people who are bearish, people who think this is a top, would be looking more for the first scenario, but those of us that are still bullish, still believe that this is going higher on a higher time frame, are going to be looking for reversals at this point. If you watched the live stream last week, I talked about how the reversal pattern I look for is something like this, where it comes down, puts in a low, and then reclaims this range, puts in a higher high in the context of the range, a higher low, another higher high, another higher low, and then another higher high to indicate that a reversal is most likely. It's a higher strike rate. Not always does it come into the market, but when it does, you know, you can expect it to be a pretty clean sign that it's going to reverse. So on this time frame, I'll be looking for reversal signs at this level at about 111k. If it does indeed continue coming down south, I'd be looking at one of these two levels here. This is the origin level, the decision point which broke this retrace high. So it could be this level, or it could be this daily level here. And as we can see, even though I marked it on the daily, on H4 it's a little bit cleaner, and it's all a reaction from this level here. So worst case scenario for this move for me is down at about 105, 106k. But I will be looking for that pattern somewhere up here or somewhere down here. That's my bullish case. Otherwise, if you're bearish, I'd be looking for maybe a bit more of a retrace, and then the complete opposite, where you have a high that gets put in, a lower low, a higher low, and then a lower low again. And then you could look to continue this trend, this bearish trend, down into 108, 111 again. Obviously, I'm not really sure because it depends on the move, but I see no reason to be bearish at this point, considering how much support we've got and considering that we are still in a bull market of sorts, and the higher time frame trend is up. But jumping down to the hourly will give you a bit more of an idea of what to expect, I believe. So once price had broken south of this range, it puts in this cluster here. As you can see, it's a small one. It's a continuation level, drops down, retraces, and then continues very quickly. So I would expect some sort of turbulence at this level. But the way that it's reacting at the moment, we have this high here, which is the last high before the continuation support gets tested, has now been broken and put in a higher high. So it really is up to the market to decide if it's going to put in a higher low as well. If it comes back down and then doesn't break this level, comes down, puts in a higher low, and then starts to look bullish, we may well have a bottom that's formed. But again, like I said, I prefer that overall pattern where it's something like that. And at the moment, it could well be we're putting in that first high. So in terms of levels at this juncture, we have, if I just mark it a little bit differently, this supply zone gets broken. And then this is the origin of the buying that took place to break that supply zone. So on an hourly time frame, more of an intraday trade, I'd be looking for it to come down to here, 113K, and start putting in some reversal signs, and then you could take that up to about 116K. That would be my hourly time frame trade. I wouldn't go lower at the moment. I think after a big drop, also at the beginning of the month, I'm not too comfortable looking down at M15 personally, but I think this is a cleaner type of trade on the hourly time frame. Or again, like I said before, on H4, coming down to this level, putting in maybe a lower low, and then looking for a similar type of reversal pattern, and then look to long it back up. But we'll see how the week develops. That's my kind of plan for now on Bitcoin. Okay, on Ethereum, on the weekly chart, obviously we've had a really big trend, and similar to Bitcoin, it's putting a bearish engulfing candle of the previous candle, but it doesn't mean much to me. It's still just a retrace. This time frame isn't clear in terms of what to expect next, but what we've got is a previous sell-off that gets broken here, and then we obviously have the highs that it looks like it still wants to go up to. For me, I don't think it's going to put in a lower high, considering how much it's ripped and where we are in the cycle. On the daily, where we have a bit more of a view to see things, okay, we have that high, and then we have this big high here. Now, this is the high I've talked about plenty of times on other videos. This is where the selling took place to come and break this low down here. As you can see, puts in this top, drops down, bounces off of the support, and then comes all the way back up. But then the selling kicks in still at several points to come and break this low. So this was a key level to hold price down. And as you can see, on a retest, it does get knocked back down below support, but then climbs and pushes back higher. This is where I had a trade. And this is similar to what I just said on Bitcoin, where price looks like it has that typical wick-off distribution high and then drops below it and then comes back and continues up. It's kind of what I'm expecting on Bitcoin. And it's kind of what I'll be expecting on Ethereum on a lower time frame, which we'll be talking about in a sec. But this was a very bullish sign. And then on the break of that key level, we have a continuation cluster, which will be cleaner on H4. So let's jump down to it. So talk about this first. This is a very typical demand zone. It's a very typical bull flag. It's a very typical continuation pattern where breaks the high, puts in a low, puts in a higher high, higher low, higher high, and then continuation of the trend. So that would be ultimately where I expect this could retrace to. Although this is a pretty clean level here as well. This is the end of the chain. And if you've watched my other videos, you'll understand what I'm talking about here. But essentially, we have multiple support levels like here and also here, but they get broken because they're all reactions from this chain here, from this level. And this is ultimately where price looks like it's probably going to find a reversal pattern. So this trend pushes up. There's the trend retrace. And then there's the kind of range. It breaks down this range, hits the shallow support as it normally does in trends, rips up, puts in a high, and then still flags within this range and then drops back down. And we have a similar little cluster at the range low as we did on Bitcoin right there. But if it starts climbing back up, I'll be looking for continuations at that point. This still looks pretty bullish to me. It's needed this retrace. It's needed to load back up. And it's caught a lot of people out. So we have on the hourly, let's look because I'm going to have a bit more of a picture. The drop, and then this is the supply zone extreme, the last one before this major support gets hit. And this is like, you know, this is the level for me where it breaks the market structure if it gets engulfed, and then you look down more for like 3,000. So now it looks more like going sideways, but this looks really similar to what we just discussed on Bitcoin, where we have a supply zone here, it's got broken, and then we have this level here, which is where the buying took place to come and break it. So similar kind of plan on the hourly as I just discussed on Bitcoin, where I expect it to come down, put in a reversal pattern, and then continue up to the range that it was in for a couple of weeks. I'm not really looking bearish. I'm not looking for short setups. I still think this is going to go up. I'm not really sure that the risk reward is there for shorts at this point, particularly after it's already dropped. But I think it probably is going to shift a lot of the market, a lot of traders' perceptions, and a lot of people are calling for tops and have been calling for tops for weeks. I'm not sure we're there yet, but I can see the sentiment shift to be more bearish. And when that happens, particularly at big lows, is where we see reversals. So I'm still optimistic that things are going to go higher, but yeah, I would be looking for continuation patterns, reversal patterns on the hourly at about 3,400 to continue up. But like, if it does just go, there are these levels here, which I'll just mark, where if it does come back up to, I can start looking for ranges and continuation patterns at that point. So that's Ethereum. Solana doesn't look as healthy as Bitcoin, but it's still put in on the weekly time frame a high, a higher low, higher high, and so far a higher low, which is typically a bullish pattern, right? So I'm not too concerned about things there. So we have this retrace high here that gets broken, and now price is retracing down into some support. So here, this is the origin of the buying that took place to come and break this high. And you can see this is what I would call the deepest, well, probably not the deepest. The deepest I would say is down here if we follow the chain. Whether it's going to come down here or not, I'm not too sure. But that is a clean level. So this, like I just talked about in Ethereum, this is a reaction to this level, which is a reaction to this level. So even though it's come down to this support, it may well be that it drops down to this 140 level, which is a shame because I was talking about looking for longs at 180 last week. But this would be the ultimate deepest retrace level. And if it does break that, probably looking for a market structure break and lower. But this level here or this level here is where I'm interested in looking for longs. So let's look on H4 to get a bit more of a cleaner picture. So we can see that daily level is a reaction to this H4 level, and it's bounced perfectly off of this lower chain here so far. And then we mark this resistance level, which is the last supply zone before the test of the support. So this would be first trouble area for longs. It needs to get flipped for confirmation, similarly to Bitcoin and Ethereum, of a trend reversal. We have a higher high, higher low, higher high. But at the moment, it hasn't done that. It's reacted from that supply zone, and it's looking like dropping a little bit. So if you're looking for shorts, you'd look for this level to get broken, put in a lower high, and then drop down to 140, which is, I think, is where this could well go to. But depending on the strength of the market, the overall market, this is a clean level for it to start looking for reversals. And as I said on Ethereum, it's where a lot of the sentiment is kind of now shifting to be more bearish. And when that happens, it's starting to be a good time to put your bull hat on. So here we have a bit of a level. This is where we get a higher high. So price drops, retraces, drops, and then puts in a higher high. It's not the cleanest, but it's technically the pattern for a reversal. So it could now come put in a higher low, and then we want to see something like that in order for it to come higher. So I'm not really looking to trade this at the moment. It's done a big drop, and I think if it does a V reversal like that, it would have gone already. If it does, of course, put in a higher high and break through this level, then you would be looking for a higher low to continue. But I think it's more likely to go sideways than do a big recovery at this point. This is a very big drop. So I would wait for these lows to be tested. I'd wait for a price to go a little bit more sideways. But at this point, I can't see anything to say like this is where I'd be looking to trade. I think it's I think it just needs to put a bit more price action in. But this does potentially look like a bottom of the move. And if it is, we just need to wait for a little bit more price action. So something we'll probably discuss in the live stream tonight. But right now, there's not a huge amount of interest in it, given the fact that there's very low volume. So yeah, I'm not going to say too much on that at the moment, okay? All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget, there's a live stream tonight at 6:30 p.m. UK time. We do this every single Monday. We're going to cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana again. We're going to basically cover what I've talked about in this video. We're going to look at the price action that's developed over the day, and then we'll have a bit more of an accurate reading for the week ahead to see if anything's changed or if I'm pretty happy with what we've discussed in this video. Don't forget as well, this video is sponsored by Watt Exchange. You can sign up to the ref link in the description below. You can start making commissions immediately on the volume that you create for the exchange, and you can start farming for points for the big airdrop that's coming early 2026. If not, I will see you guys next week where we do this all over again. While you're waiting for the live stream, click one of these links here. You'll enjoy this one. I think you'll enjoy this one for sure.